Good morning, Liam. Today is Sunday, March 1st. The war between Ukraine and Russia has been ongoing for 4 years. You need to undertake a new project to determine China's position in the Russia-Ukraine war. This project has the highest priority. Please complete it as soon as possible and upload the video. Currently, the temperature in Shenzhen is experiencing slight rainfall and a drop in temperature. Make sure you have all the necessary items before leaving.
Russian troops are closing in on the capital.
China helps Russia, doesn't help Ukraine.
China could stop buying.
This war has exacted a heavy toll on both sides. For Ukraine, the economy has plummeted, its population has significantly decreased, and the birth rate has reached its lowest point. For Russia, although it currently holds the upper hand on the battlefield, it is also facing severe sanction. Price in Moscow has soured, and the living cost of the ordinary people has increased significantly. Even if the war ends tomorrow, both countries' society will have confronted a heavy legacy issue. Countless soldiers and civilians will live with the trauma of war for the rest of their lives. This is the most concealed and long-lasting cause of the war. During the war, people could only obtain fragmented information through social media. Due to the normal and friendly relationships between China and Russia, Western media have been filled with accusations of China providing military assistance to Russia. In this video of the Liam's perspective, I will analyze China's true position in this war, tell you why Western mainstream media selectively ignore certain facts, and explain how the vast majority of Chinese people view this war, its impact on China, and most importantly, why China did not side with Ukraine. Please watch the video until the end because the content is something you would never expect. On February 24, 2022, when the war first broke out, not only Chinese observers but most of the people around the world did not believe Ukraine could stand with the advance of Russia. What follows was an overwhelming flow of the misinformation spreading from Twitter to Chinese social media. The most famous claim was the Kyiv could be taken in 1 hour and 22 minutes. That phrase later became a meme across both Chinese and international internet space, used sarcastically to mark out the Russian military early overconfidence and floated intellectual assessments. The most outraged fake news I personally saw was 1 hour after the war began, Zelensky was beheaded by the Russian force in Kyiv. Well, clearly not true. This chaos of information itself reveals something. Both sides overestimate themselves and underestimate their opponent. The Russian military initial tactical deployment was still operating within a strategy framework from more than a decade ago, while Ukraine's will to resist exceeded most expectation. Many people don't realize that the most Chinese citizens have a favorable impression of Slavic culture and cuisine. China has maintained friendly diplomatic with Belarus and long-standing trade relationships with Russia for many years. In terms of cultural perception, many Chinese naturally see Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus as a culturally connected three Slavic brothers. So when the brothers take up arms against each other, the first reaction among many Chinese people is regret. In traditional Chinese culture, this is called brother fighting within the same household, which is considered deeply taboo. This cultural psychology largely explains why Chinese public opinion was not simply about taking sides from the beginning, more than about confusion. How did things end up like this? Even today, debate on Chinese social media remains intense. Broadly summarized, voices leaning towards Ukraine are often based on humanitarian concerns, focusing on civilian casualty and refugee issues. Voices leaning to Russia are more rooted in geopolitical logic, focusing on the NATO expansion and strategic security concerns. But one essential cross position: war is always a disaster for ordinary people. To understand China's position, one must understand a basic fact. If Ukraine were joining NATO missiles could strike Moscow, essentially where Vladimir Putin sleeps. Russia might accept Ukraine joining the European Union economically, but it will never accept Ukraine joining NATO. This is the red line in terms of the great power security. Let's conduct a thorough experiment. If one day the Philippines or Japan join NATO and the US missile would deploy just a few hundred kilograms from China coastline, how would China react? Will there be military actions? That is Russia's logic. At the same time, China has not supported Russia to an unlimited degree. China is the export-oriented economic. War disrupts logistics, shipping routines, and financial settlements, none of which serve China's interests. The current situation is declared. China does not provide lethal weapons to Russia, but China also does not want Russia to lose completely. Furthermore, the prolonged nature of the war to some extent aligns with China's interests. 4 years of economic and military assistance have strained multiple European countries, including Germany and United Kingdom, where ordinary citizens feel rising living costs, inflation, and high energy prices. The United States, though a larger in scale, must simultaneously manage the situation in Gaza and border tensions in the Middle East. Second, the war has become a real-world observation window into NATO. China has a large adopted strategy of strategic ambiguity and late-move advantage. Western military analysts can speculate about China's capacities, but the Russia-Ukraine war is different. It is a direct confrontation between NATO equipment system and the Russia equipment system. Without deploying a single soldier, China can gather significant battlefield data. If you observe China's 2025 military parade, you might notice that some new equipment design concepts clearly reflect lessons learned from this war.
The new tank, which is the ZTZ, which is a lighter tank than normal. This one has taken inspiration from what's going on in Ukraine. And so the ZTZ, it's probably about 35, 40 tons instead of 70 tons. It's more mobile. It's got different sort of fire systems. This shows that the Chinese are thinking about the ways in which the Ukraine war may be affecting ground warfare operations.
If China had truly provided large-scale weapons, the battlefield situation might not be this stalemated.
China, support Ukraine! 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 China, support Ukraine!
Within the Zelensky administration, there are indeed elements associated with far-right and neo-Nazi ideology. This is not merely a claim. Reports from the United Nations and odds have mentioned extremist components. China's position itself as a conservative left-wing learning system, emphasizing stability, order, economic development, and cultural continuity. China can engage with the right-wing governments, even some far-right ones, but Nazi ideology is an absolute red line. Western criticism of China often focus on human rights, pollution, Taiwan, Hong Kong, or Xinjiang, but you rarely hear Western discourse labeling China as a neo-Nazi. Why? Because the mainstream Chinese social values share similarities with Western Christianity conservatives: hardworking, family responsibility, marriage, community orders. What about the Azov regiment? It has publicly used Nazi symbol and referenced World War II era Nazi figures. When such a group is incorporated into Ukrainian National Guard and its symbol appears in the official context, many Chinese citizens respond with disbelief. For families in China that suffering during the World War II, sympathy becomes extremely complicated. On September 5, 2024, Ukrainian ambassador to Japan visited Yasukuni Shrine and expressed respect for those commemorated there. To Chinese people, Yasukuni Shrine enshrines convict Class A war criminals and symbols Japanese militarism. It is associated with events such as the Nanjing Massacre and wartime atrocity. Visiting their shrine is seen as the endorsing Japanese imperial ideology. When similar visits have occurred in the past, Chinese public reaction has been extremely strong. Therefore, when the Ukrainian diplomat did the same, public opinion in China shifted sharply. Many Chinese people found it impossible to reconcile such actions with expectations of support.
I thought I'm going to ask this question, the last one, so I can say it's the last question, but anyway. Yesterday, the Ukraine's ambassador to Japan, Sergei Korsunsky, paid homage to a controversial place, Yasukuni Jinja, where over 1,000 convicted war criminals from the Pacific War were enlisted, including 14 convicted Class A crimes. What does the Secretary General has to say on his visit?
I think that's an issue that is, I guess, a regional question, but it is not for us to comment.
No,
Yep.
I haven't finished yet. Sorry, yeah, that's not my last question. So, on the official Twitter account, they posted tweet and said that the ambassador is to pay his respects to those who lost their lives in service to their country. So war criminals are those who lost their lives in service to their country. Does the Secretary General agree on
Look,
that?
I am not going to comment on an issue that needs to be dealt with within member states.
Well, in 2013, the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon issued a statement when talking about this issue. He said he stresses the need to be sensitive to the feelings of others, especially memory of victims, and focus on building mutual trust and stronger partnership.
I have no. I think those sentiments still hold today.
I
will leave it. I've answered your question to the best of my ability.
Some Chinese observers claim that individuals linked to the Azov regiments appears in Hong Kong during the 2019 unrest. Including photographs near Hong Kong Polytechnic University. When those images circulate later, they reinforce perceptions that Ukrainian nationalist group were involved in sensitive Chinese domestic issue. Ukrainian officials have stated publicly that Ukraine will stand with United States in confronting China.
We are Ukrainians. We are ready to stand with the United States, shoulder to shoulder, either in trenches near Tehran or near in North Korea or near Beijing, no different.
他此生。上周五，乌克兰议会议员冈察连科在接受 CNN 采访时表示，乌克兰愿协助美国与中国、朝鲜、伊朗和任何其他国家进行战斗。请问中方对此有何评论？
我想乌克兰危机给我们的一条重要的启示就是阵营对抗是无法带来安全的。作为负责任大国，中方将继续为政治解决乌克兰危机发挥建设性作用。
Additionally, when reports surfaced that Russia drones contain components manufactured in Shenzhen, which is the normal in a global supply chain, some Ukrainian social media's voice even suggests designating Shenzhen as the regiment's military target. Shenzhen is one of China's most developed megacities, with tens of millions of the residents and central role in technology and finance, suggesting military targeting over globally sourced components strike many Chinese observers as disconnected from geopolitical reality. More fundamentally, critics argue that corruption, mismanagement, and structural weakness within Ukraine's systems, including allegation of misused military funds and official fleeing early in the war, have attributed significantly to Ukraine's difficulties. In this view, Russia's invasion explored deeply systematic issues. If the war were to end in 2026, what might it conclude? My personal judgment, territorially, there is a high possibility of the frozen status quo. Politically, Ukraine will face long-term reconstruction. Economically, it will confront heavy debt burdens. Regardless of the outcome, the greatest victims are ordinary Ukrainian people, especially middle-class and working families. Their living standards and assets may not return to the peer-war levels for a long time. Post-war reconstruction will bring foreign capital, debt obligation, oligarchic interests, and international investments, potentially reshaping Ukraine's minerals, land, energy sector, and state-owned assets. There is a saying often circulate online: being American enemy is dangerous, being America's ally is fatal. Glory belongs to Ukraine. Occupied territory belongs to Russia. National resource and power belong those at the top of the pyramid. But what belongs to the Ukrainian people themselves?
What have the families of Ukraine lost?
Finally, I want to quote a line from the film Arrival. War doesn't generate heroes. It only creates widows and orphans.